Hey everybody, good. I got hopefully my internet working. Welcome back to Mondays with Moss, a weekly video series on living a great life, an extraordinary life of success, accomplishment, and happiness. Well, the last few weeks I've been talking about the invisible forces that control our lives and our destiny, much of which is, since it's invisible, we don't know it unless you can become aware of it. And then if you become aware of it, you can notice it, see it, maybe do something about it. So I started talking about the victim lifestyle, the victim point of view. Last week I talked about the survivor style. And today I'm very excited to begin to talk to you about living life as a navigator. Living life as a navigator is where the juice is, the heart of the matter. I'm going to be spending at least 3, maybe 4, maybe 5 sessions giving you as much information as I can on living life as a navigator. Now this is the basis of a new book. I don't have the title yet, so maybe you could think about it as we talk about it. Love to get your suggestions. That way I can acknowledge you as coming up with the title. Well, I got some questions for you to think about in terms of living life as a navigator. So here are some questions. Just like last week and the week before, we talked about some questions about, are you a victim? Are you a survivor? It's to help you orient you to a way of thinking, becoming more aware of living the life of a navigator. Number 1, do you have a passion or a purpose? Is there anything driving you? Number 2, do you have a voice and can you use it? Do you have a voice or do you suppress it? Are you afraid to express it for fear of disapproval? Do you see life as an opportunity or as a crisis? Navigators see life as an opportunity. Can you shrug off self-doubt and negative thinking? This is one of the biggest. We all have negative thoughts, self-doubt, lack of confidence. Can you shrug it off and not take it too personally? Do you like yourself? When you wake up in the morning, I do the shaving contest. I look at myself and I say, do I like myself today? And basically I do. Hope you do too, like yourselves. Can you bounce back from upsets? In other words, can you be resilient? Do you think about consequences? I don't mean ruminating. I mean think, if I do this, what might happen? It's called antecedent consequential thinking. It's a very powerful skill of being able to predict, not with a guarantee, but to at least be thoughtful about the probability of your success. Are you living with a sense of joyfulness, or is it more a sense of dread? Navigators definitely live with a greater sense of joy. And are you a master of the mind game? The mind game is really where it's at, not out here in the real world. It's what goes on in our head. So some of the basic skills of the life of the navigator are they live a life of creative design. They don't wait for life to turn out. They make sure life is turning out. Again, they don't always get what they want, but they're taking responsibility. They're being active and designing their life. They have a map for their success. They have an idea where they are now, where they're going. They understand the nature of gap analysis. What's the difference between where I am now, where I want to get to, and what are the steps I need to take? Navigators tend to know what's important. If you know what's important, it gives your life purpose. Is family important? Is a relationship important? Is making money important? Is status important? Is contribution important? These are drivers that give ourselves a life of a meaning, purpose. I think navigators set goals. They have a purpose, they have a passion, but then they say, okay, how do I translate this passion and this desire into reality? Then they take key actions that work. Not random actions, but they're very thoughtful about the high probability, high impact actions. And lastly, they're resilient. They know how to bounce back from an upset. I want to give you an example. I once saw a client who ran for political office 3 times and failed. And by the 3rd time, pretty upset and a lot poorer in the process because he was using a lot of his money. It just didn't work out. So we spent some time examining the invisible forces, the power, the drivers behind his running for office. Was it power? Was it personal status? Was it trying to prove something? I think what he discovered was his driver was contribution and what we call servant leadership. He wanted to serve people. He wanted to make a contribution. And then we started to explore how he could best serve his beloved city. And that's where he had millions of people in the city. He didn't want to just do it for one person. He wanted to do it for the whole community. So we explored how to do that. He realized He loved his city, and his city never ever had a documentary movie made about it, like San Francisco, New York, Chicago, New Orleans. Over the next couple of years, he learned cinematography and assembled a crew, a film crew. He made an award-winning series on TV about Philadelphia, and now he's shooting this kind of film about other cities. So he also got an award, a film award, not sure what's a national award, but basically this is a guy who had purpose, he had vision, he had goals, took the right actions. He was resilient. He did not lay down and die. He bounced back with good support. So do you know where you're going in life? Do you have a direction? Do you have a purpose? You may want to take my Are You a Navigator quiz online. You'll find out how to do that above. It's basically, go to www.navigatingforsuccess.com, and there'll be a quiz there that you can take to let you know, are you more like a victim, survivor, or a navigator? So now let's move to some certain foundations of how navigators are wired. I think navigators are wired strategically and tactically. What do I mean by strategically? Well, it's how the navigator thinks and acts. The navigator has a sense of being grounded. He knows he has his feet on the ground. She has an awareness of her body and her thoughts and her feelings. The navigator can set boundaries, both in terms of dealing with toxic people versus helpful people, but also dealing internally with your toxic thoughts. We have a lot of toxic thoughts, which I'm going to talk about in a little while. Also, the navigator has another foundation called keeping perspective. He always knows where his North Star is, and he asks himself, is what I'm doing here, is this discussion furthering my purpose and my goal? They also play a tactical game. They play the A game. I talked about this a few sessions ago. The A game is I'm aware. I'm aware of my thinking, my feelings, my strengths, my weaknesses. I'm aware of what's going on. The navigator is also accountable, takes full responsibility for everything. Doesn't blame, doesn't make excuses, basically says, I'm accountable. I take responsibility. And the navigator is able to take action. Okay, now what does this allow us to do? I think these foundation skills, strategically and tactically, allow the navigator to follow through on living life as a navigator. Basically, how to become more mindful. Mindfulness has to do with being in the present, being aware that you're slipping into anticipatory, obsessive thinking about the future called what if, or slipping back into regrets and resentments which come from the past. Mindfulness stays focused on where am I right now. The navigators also have a skill called witnessing their mind. They can notice their thoughts. I'm noticing I'm having an anxious thought. I'm noticing I'm feeling enthusiastic. I'm noticing I'm getting distracted. They're aware. Very important, they know how to manage their toxic thoughts. I have a cousin who was recently talking about another cousin who did not return a phone call. And my cousin, who was expecting the phone call, got into, well, maybe that cousin doesn't like me. Maybe that cousin doesn't love me anymore. Maybe I'm not that important anymore. No, there was no facts. There was no evidence for that because they had a great relationship. It was just the toxic thoughts of our mind pull us in a direction. There's an expression, nature abhors a vacuum. So if you, hi Jan, hi guys, good to see you. Nature abhors a vacuum. So if you don't have an answer, you will make up an answer. But unfortunately, the answer will probably be negative, as what happened with my cousin. So they know how to manage the thoughts and feelings. I'm noticing I'm having a suspicious thought. Is it true? Do I have any evidence? They also are good at labeling their feelings, labeling their thoughts. Oh, I'm noticing I'm feeling scared, I'm feeling angry, I'm feeling disappointed. I have a friend who recently was talking to me about her conversations with people who vote for Trump. She doesn't vote for Trump. She's very Biden and left-oriented. And she was talking about how angry she gets and how triggered and reactive she gets. And she doesn't like it because she says things that are kind of nasty in reaction to someone else who she perceives as being nasty or stupid or just lying. So we talked about her noticing her thoughts and then deciding, what am I going to choose? Am I going to choose to lash out? Or am I going to choose just to say, okay, you have a different perspective than mine. Help me understand what's behind it. What's the logic behind it? Okay. I think the navigator is able to regain focus through perspective taking by keep coming back to what's important. For example, health issues. Like right now, I'm kind of dealing with some health issues. I don't quite know what's going on yet, so I'm going for some medical tests this week. And I notice my mind tries to pull me in the direction of, well, aren't you worried? Shouldn't you worry? What if? What if it's this? What if it's that? What if the doctor frowns? What if the result is whatever? And I notice like that makes me, I can feel it, my heart pounding. I feel my stomach tighten up. So I notice the anxious thought. I notice I'm having anxious thoughts. I really have no evidence for anything yet. It's all early diagnosis. So back off, do some work on well-being. So the navigator keeps coming back to well-being focus. Letting go of an upset. You know, it takes only about 90 seconds for a negative emotion to go through your body. Physiologically, what keeps it going for minutes, hours, maybe days, is how we think about it. We exaggerate it, we create obsessions, and we overfocus, we tell bad stories. I think navigators really don't carry much baggage around. They travel light. They separate facts from stories. I think I told you the story about my cousin. Yeah, they ask themselves, is my story true? What's my evidence? If it's not true, why think about it? Let me think about what's more empowering to get me back on track. They don't get lost in their stories. And they also realize something very important. Their thoughts sometimes are not thinking. They're just errant thoughts. You know, we have about 2,500 conscious thoughts a day. Like, how am I looking? I'm trying to look at the camera, but sometimes I glance to look at myself and I say, how do I look? That's a conscious thought question. But 2,000 of these thoughts are negative. So 80% of the time we drift into negativity. Okay? So you want to keep coming back to what am I up to? What's important? And how can I focus? They have the ability to ready, aim, fire. They keep the big picture. They keep their focus on what I call the North Star. You know, when Neil Armstrong in 1969 flew to the moon, it was a flight of about 235,000 miles. He actually flew about 265,000 miles, a 30,000 mile error. He was really off 80% of the time. 80% of the time he was off course. It was like this jagged flying. And what kept him on course? Because when he landed on the moon, he hit the target. Hi, David. Hi, hey, Jan. He hit the target a quarter of a mile from the bullseye. He kept making adjustments. The team kept making adjustments, kept looking for feedback. He kept his picture on North Star. He didn't deviate to visit Mars. He didn't deviate to visit that meteorite to the left. He kept going in the right direction. So you want to keep your focus on the North Star. You want to take high-impact actions, the actions that really get to the result. Also important, you need to be resilient because you will keep failing and making mistakes. If you're up to anything big, you will keep making mistakes and fail. So you got to be able to come back. And you want to keep your ability, excuse the expression, turning shit into manure. Okay? I'll give you an example. A couple of weeks ago, I think I mentioned on one of the posts, I was climbing the stairs. I had not great sandals on, carrying several bottles of wine, and I tripped on the very last step when I heard the phone ring because I wanted to get to the phone. Wine flew through the air. It was like guided missiles. I flew through the air. I smashed into the cabinet. My bottle smashed into the cabinet. Red wine all over the place. So as I spent the next 20 minutes cleaning it up with my wife's help, I noticed my thinking. I got for a moment into, what an asshole. I can't believe I did that. How stupid can I be? I noticed it as a toxic thought. I said, don't go there. I said, I'm curious. What caused my accident? And I realized what caused my accident was I was wearing bad shoes, I was carrying too many bottles, and I was in a rush. I was trying to do two things at once. Get to the phone, carry the bottles, and climb the stairs. Three things at once. Cleaned it up, and I realized, I said to myself, in the future, I'm going to do it differently. So I had a growth mindset. So navigators are always able to acknowledge their difficulty, choose not to go into hurtful thinking, and think well-being. What can I do to do this better? So navigators, if you're not your thoughts, who are you? Well, you're the witness to your thinking. You're the observer. It's like you're in the audience watching the movie, in a movie theater. Watch the movie of your mind. It's just a story, and these thoughts will pop up. Notice them. You don't have to obey them. They're just thoughts. Also, when a navigator gets anxious and feels it in his body or her body, you become curious. What is this body sensation? And they learn some body techniques. I think we as navigators know thinking doesn't always get to the bottom of the problem. Sometimes we got to go to the body, which is the bottom of the problem, and say, what can I do to relax this heartbeat? What can I do to slow down the muscular contractions of my stomach? What can I do to relax the muscles of my neck? Now, so I'll talk over the next few sessions about actual techniques you can use to decrease the tension in your body, and then your thoughts will automatically shift to what's important. Okay, also, navigators spend very little time in past or future thinking. The only time they think about the future is when they consciously say, what's important to me, where do I want to get to, and then they come back to the present, how can I move from the present to the future? Because navigators realize in the past, what you have is memories, which are not bad if you want to spend some time kind of daydreaming, but we also have a strong tendency to go into past regrets and resentments. The future basically is what if and worry and catastrophic thinking. I think that navigators really appreciate the futility of worrying. My wife once said, worrying has never been shown to produce anything positive. Maybe you know it has, but I don't think it has either. I think constructive thinking does. Navigators have a growth mindset, not a fixed mindset. I'll talk more about this next time. A growth mindset is, what can I learn from this? How can I take responsibility? How can I improve? They take accountability and they're responsible. I think also navigators do a pretty good job setting agreements, not just expecting. If you expect, it's like wishing that I'll get the phone call, wishing I'll get the job. I have a teenager I'm working with, and he was very anxious about getting a particular job. He was expecting the employer to call. I said, most of the time, employers get dozens, if not hundreds, of applications from youngsters like your age. You're only 18. Why don't you call, be responsible, and say, hey, I was thinking about how busy you must be, and I want you to know I really like the idea of coming to work for your company. Your company has a great reputation. What's the possibility of my coming in and meeting you so you can take a look and see what you're getting? He got the job because he was accountable. He created an agreement. The guy said, yeah, come on over, set a date. Okay? So basically, what did I talk about today? I talked today about some questions to think about. Are you a navigator? We talked about some basic skills. I suggested go on my website, Navigating for Success, and take the quiz. Are you a navigator? We talked about some basic foundations of living life as a navigator, both strategic and tactical. We talked about mindfulness and thought management, worry or choose well-being. You've got to choose one or the other. I suggest if you want to be a navigator, choose well-being. You want to be a survivor or victim, choose worry. We looked about the idea that the energy cycle of emotions is about 90 seconds. So if you want to keep negative thinking and worrying prolonged and really obsess about it, just keep thinking about it. Review it over and over again like a broken record. We talked about making sure you know the difference between a story and a fact. A story and a fact. Remember, nature abhors a vacuum. It will make up a story. And I promise you, most of your stories are going to be bad stories. We talked about North Star thinking, which is keep your eye on the goal, like Neil Armstrong did in Flying to the Moon. And remember, you're not your thinking. You're the witness to your thinking. Now, next time, when we meet again in a week, we're going to continue talking about the navigational lifestyle. I want to review what we talked about today. I want to talk to you about having a future focus, but bringing it into the present. So you make the future real now. The future can inspire you because that's where purpose is always driven towards the future. I want to talk about the power of belief and intention. The way you think, the way you believe, you can change. If your thinking is negative, your thinking affects your brain, and the way your brain is determines your destiny. So if you could change your beliefs and your intention, you could change your brain and change your destiny. The work of Joe Dispenza, Bruce Lipton, Rick Hansen, and others strongly suggest this as so. I want to talk to you about emotional intelligence skills. How emotionally intelligent are you? And I want to talk about how to use navigational thinking and actions during the COVID and during any other crises you have. And I'll do my best to keep you aware of how I'm using navigational style and making the invisible power of living life as a navigator more vivid, like I got my hands on the steering wheel as I go through whatever medical situation I'm going through. And I'll keep you posted. So in the meantime, folks, Have a good week. Keep social distancing. Wear your mask. Try not to be too reactive and too worried. And I wish you well-being. Well-being. Good luck, guys. See you next week.